That was Minnesota Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer. Matthew Coller here and in studio for the first hour to co-host from The Athletic, Chad Graff, Jonathan Harrison producing. What is up, Chad?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm trying right now as we begin to make a Twitter poll that doesn't have people ratioing me. And if you know what ratioing is,
I'm familiar, yes.
Yeah, that's when you get very few favorites or retweets because people don't like the tweet, but they respond with angry, violent responses.
And I know where you're going with this Twitter poll, and I'm not sure that there is a way, and even with our increase of characters up to 280 now, I'm still not sure that there are 280 characters for you to properly convey this take that you are about to debut today.
I don't think so. But I'm gonna try here at the beginning of the show though, with lots of words. So give me space here. Give me some time. Okay, here's what I want to get at.
Roll up the sleeves. Get ready.
All right. I literally just did that. Yep. Like, okay, here we go. Rub the hands together. Deep breath. Would you rather have Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins? This is a real question, okay? And here's all right.
Packers week is off to a great start.
You want to give out the phone line too while you're at it?
Do not do that. But wait for me. Give me space here to explain this. Aaron Rodgers is under contract with the Green Bay Packers until he is 40 years old. And even looking at the dead cap, that sort of thing, and how they have messed with it as every team does, they are on the hook with him at least until 2021, probably until 2022, when he is 39 years old. Now, what I want to give you here to just set this up entirely is Aaron Rodgers' numbers over the last few years, all right, as he is getting older. He is age 36 right now. So from 2016 to his first game in 2019, he is 21, 18, and 1 as a starter, all right? 82 touchdowns, 15 picks, a great number of interceptions, but only 7.3 yards per attempt and a 100 quarterback rating. Those are Aaron Rodgers' numbers over the last 4 years, 3 years and 1 game. Okay, now let's play the same game with Kirk Cousins since 2016. Just give me space here. Give me time, okay?
Oh, boy.
He is 24, 23, and 2. So almost the same winning percentage, a 97.3 quarterback rating, and 7.6 yards per attempt, 83 touchdowns, 35 picks. So he's turned over the ball more, but averaged more yards per attempt, about the same quarterback rating, about the same win-loss. He is younger by 5 years and only under contract for the next 2 years. Would you rather have Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins?
Here we are on this Friday the 13th in September. I never thought I would say the day. Write down this date, actually, because Matthew Coller is promoting Kirk Cousins' numbers as a reason that not only should you be believing in him, but that you should be believing in him over Aaron Rodgers, granted, for the life of their contract. So if I'm assuming the question correctly, this is Kirk Cousins. He's got 2 years left on his contract. If I'm a team that I just took over as a GM, would I rather have Kirk Cousins and the remainder of his contract or Aaron Rodgers, presumably through 2022 at the earliest?
Okay, let me give you one more detail here.
Okay.
I'm going to read you Aaron Rodgers' salary cap numbers. All right. So this year, 26.5, reasonable for a great quarterback, 32.6, 33.5, and in 2022, $37 million cap hit for Aaron Rodgers. And here's why I would pick Kirk Cousins, because you sort of insinuated that you would pick or that I would pick Kirk Cousins, and I will tell you why. Even though I have been critical of Mr. Cousins at times, occasionally.
How quickly we forget the offseason.
I said the offense was going to be better for him this year, okay?
He throws 10 passes, and all of a sudden you're ready to sign him up.
No, I'm not signing him. That is the main point here, is that if on paper they have largely been the same quarterback and they each have their issues, one of Aaron Rodgers' issues is that he gets sacked constantly, that he is losing so many yards and opportunities to throw the ball and throwing drives away. He was sacked in the first game 5 times and lost 37 yards. Last year, 49 times for 353 yards lost, which is incredible. I mean, think about how bad the Vikings offensive line last year was. Kirk Cousins lost 262 yards. Over 100 more yards lost just from Aaron Rodgers taking sacks. So his refusal to throw risky passes, that's why he doesn't get interceptions, gets him sacked constantly. I think he's a little overrated when it comes to reading defenses, and a lot of it was pure athleticism when he put up those insane numbers. I don't ever see those numbers coming back. I think what you have here is two very similar quarterbacks at this point. I'm saying it. You have both quarterbacks who can make great throws. They're accurate, but they have their problems. Now, this is a thing that we have to accept about Aaron Rodgers. He has problems now.
I think two things can be true. Aaron Rodgers can be regressing and not quite the MVP that he was before, while also being significantly better than Kirk Cousins.
Okay, so you say not quite, but let me throw these numbers at you in terms of the not quite.
All right, but before we get there, let's just preface, we have talked at length about how Kirk Cousins' numbers can at times be deceiving and lend you to believe that he's actually a better quarterback, perhaps, than he is.
It's true. But using the whole sample and about the same win-loss record. So there were probably just as many times where Aaron Rodgers was playing from behind and racking up more stats.
I wonder if Aaron Rodgers is going to come out and say, these last 3 years, I've been kind of a 500 quarterback.
I haven't even been any better than Kirk. That would be, or if Aaron will listen to the segment and be mad at me or something, because he's a psycho like that. But in his prime, Aaron Rodgers, 2009 to 2014, a 109 quarterback rating, which is historic, 8.4 yards per attempt, which usually would lead the entire NFL, 197 touchdowns, 43 picks, which is good for averaging 36-8 ratio over 16 games. At that point in his career, he's one of the great quarterbacks in history, and he goes 64-23 during that time. But after that, after his prime, which takes him into his early 30s, he's just not super special. And if he's not super special, then he's not worth a $33 million cap hit. And I wouldn't want to lock into a guy who isn't super special all the way through age 40 years old. Where with Kirk Cousins, if I don't like what I see this year, I can move on from Kirk Cousins eventually.
So I guess that's the other part of this debate, is that you consider Kirk Cousins, you'll find out this season and the following season what you have. And if you don't want to re-sign him, presumably at a rate that is more favorable against the total salary cap, that you would move on and then use your first round pick on a quarterback. But isn't that such a long game that you're looking at here? Like, are you just going to start over with whatever first round pick after you decide to move on from Kirk Cousins? And B, how sure are you that that person's going to be better?
So you bring me to an important point here, which would be, do you think that either one of these quarterbacks can win the Super Bowl this year?
Yes.
Well, both of them?
Yes. I definitely think that Aaron Rodgers can win the Super Bowl. I think that it is fair to point out that his statistics have certainly decreased in recent years. His 7.4 average yards per attempt last season was not very good. But we're not that far removed from 2016 and a great season from him. He avoids interceptions. He avoids putting his team
in a bad way, though. In a bad way, he avoids interceptions. He had the most throwaways last year. I double anybody else and took all those sacks. It's kind of like how people used to argue that Tyrod Taylor was good, which was hilarious because I covered him in Buffalo and he wasn't at all. But they'd be like, well, he never, Tyrod, sorry. He was Tyrod for the entire time, and then they changed it after I left. No correlation, I don't think. But with the same thing with Tyrod, where they'd be like, he's the lowest interception percentage ever. Like, well, if you never throw the ball and you take sacks, Tyrod took 42 and 46 sacks in 2016 and 17. Anyway, so sorry to interrupt your point.
Aaron Rodgers threw 2 interceptions last season.
I know, and it wasn't good.
It just wasn't really very good. Yeah, but I would rather the quarterback throw the ball away when nothing is there than try to force it into a bad situation, throw a pick six. I think the Vikings fans can recall a few pick sixes in recent memory that perhaps killed the momentum of a game. I'm thinking specifically against the Saints last season when, things seemed to be going the right way for them, and then a pick six halts things in a dramatic fashion. So I do think that, I can't believe, I feel like this is providing a hot take now with everything that we've said, but I was going to say, I do think Aaron Rodgers can win a Super Bowl. Do you not think that Aaron Rodgers is a potential Super Bowl winner this season?
I think if he plays like he has the last 4 years, then his team will have to be a lot better than they are on offense for that to actually happen. That he would sort of, he's not Peyton Manning for Denver, but he would sort of need a lot of the same things. He would need their running game to be really good. He would need their defense to be really good. These are not things that we said about Aaron Rodgers before. Before we said, oh, well, I mean, anytime you've just got 53 players on a roster, Aaron Rodgers can take you to the Super Bowl. And that was true because he was playing at such an incredible level. What the crux of the point is not whether Aaron Rodgers is more talented than Kirk Cousins. There's no question about that of course he is. Aaron Rodgers has top 5 arm talent in history, and the prime of his career matches up or is better than anyone who has ever played. And there's probably a lot of that that's still there. But he also has gone through a lot with his body, and he's routinely been playing with this injury, playing with that injury, missed time because of injuries, trying to come back from this or that or the other thing. Last year when we saw him in Lambeau, he could barely run, right? And yet they still tried some sort of wildcat type style where he snapped
and still had a decent game, even on one leg.
He did.
So I suppose to counterpoint, 2017, not a great season, but an injury-riddled season, was battling injuries the whole time. His numbers were not that great, but he only played 7 games.
Him, though, right? Like, isn't that a negative toward which one you would take? Is that Rodgers keeps getting hurt all the time because he holds onto the ball forever?
Or that Rodgers playing through injury is still as good as Kirk Cousins?
Do you expect, though, that a guy who has been playing through injury so often at age 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40, which is the whole time that you have him, will not have that problem again? I mean, this is...
Yeah, that's fair.
And so it's not necessarily the point that I would take Rodgers over Cousins based on pure talent, because that is preposterous. Rodgers is way more talented. However, if you haven't played any better on paper in 4 years than Kirk Cousins has, and I can get out from under Kirk Cousins if I decide he isn't worth it, this year, at the end of this year, the Minnesota Vikings could look at the draft and say, you know what, we're going to trade up for Justin Herbert or something. And they could draft a quarterback, play one more year with Cousins, and be on to the next guy and go forward with a rookie quarterback contract and all the money to spend on stars. The Green Bay Packers are hogtied with this contract for a long time for quarterback play over the last couple of years that hasn't been good enough to justify it. So I look at Green Bay as being in one of the toughest positions in the entire NFL, unless this guy turns back the clock. But now we're looking at it like you've got to turn back the clock to like 2016.
Yeah,
in order
late
to be good.
2016. And I think
it's a little far. I mean, it's 2019.
His ceiling is so dramatically higher than Kirk Cousins is. Perhaps his floor, when he is hobbled on one leg, trying to do too many things, maybe that's below Kirk Cousins. I still have a hard time seeing that. But 2016, that was the season that started very poorly for the Packers. They ended up winning the NFC North title. They started 4-5. After that, in games in which the Packers went 6-1, Aaron Rodgers, 8.3 yards per attempt, 18 touchdowns, 0 interceptions over those final 7 games. He at least has shown in recent seasons that he can get to that level that Kirk Cousins, no matter what happens around him, no matter who you surround him with or what offense he's in, Kirk Cousins cannot get to that level. And that's why, even though Kirk Cousins' contract is more favorable and you can get out of it earlier, I think you got to trust the quarterback who can get to a ceiling that the other guy just cannot get to.
So the fundamental question might be, do you think that Aaron Rodgers' team that they're building around him, which is pretty good this year on the defensive side.
Yeah, better this year, yep.
But still not so much on the offensive side. I mean, you're talking about Devontae Adams and a bunch of people.
Luck.
Right? Yeah. And
a good left tackle. Right.
Yep. And he's got some back issues, and their running back is talented, but I'm not sure if he's like a carry the franchise type of guy. But do you believe that you can still put enough around Aaron Rodgers if he's never going to be the 2014 version again to actually win a Super Bowl? Because if you don't 100% believe that he will win a Super Bowl during this contract, which is harder and harder as we go older in his career, then it's absolutely Kirk Cousins. And I tend to agree with you when you talk about Kirk Cousins having the potential to win a Super Bowl with the team that's around him. And we just saw what this defense does to people at home. Imagine if the Vikings win the division and they have home playoff games. they'll be a favorite to go to the Super Bowl because of US Bank Stadium. And with the numbers that Cousins has put up and his skill set, I mean, it definitely doesn't go under impossible. It goes under, he's not Brady where you assume it, or Breeze, but is he Jared Goff? Like, probably. I mean, he's definitely in that ballpark. And even if you look at, like, I don't know if you like this stat, but QBR, ESPN's QBR, it attempts to weigh the game situation.
0 to 100.
How someone performed in factoring, is it the fourth quarter? Is it the first quarter? Did you step up in big moments? There are problems with it, but it can also tell you some stuff. Last year, Cousins is 14th. Aaron Rodgers is 16th, like right next to each other. I mean, it's like when has Rodgers recently shown that he has so much better of potential to win the Super Bowl than Kirk Cousins does, when we're sort of saying a lot of the same things about Kirk Cousins. Like, well, he's going to need all these weapons. He's going to need everyone to stay healthy. He's going to need an elite defense. After watching week 1 of Aaron Rodgers get sacked 5 times and struggle to operate the offense, but make a few big plays.
In Chicago against a very good defense.
But you have to beat good defenses if you're actually going to win something. I mean, even their recent highest, both in 2016, Rodgers and Cousins in QBR. Rodgers was 4th, Cousins was 6th. I mean, I don't think it's crazy to say that the current version of Aaron Rodgers always has the potential to flip a switch and do something crazy that Kirk Cousins does not. But at the same time, that they have a lot of issues still. And the pocket presence for Cousins, the lack of mobility, but the sacks that Aaron Rodgers takes, his refusal to get along with people is also a problem too. Because you could say, well,
I wouldn't say Kirk Cousins is a shining example of.
But that's what I mean. We have the same problems here. When you take away the Aaron Rodgers who can throw it 45 yards down the field on a dime, which we have not seen in quite a while, that Aaron Rodgers who's rolling out, run all over the place, making these off-balance throws, haven't seen that in a while. When that's not there, that takes him to that all-time level, he's very similar to Kirk Cousins.
Sure, though I'm not even going to say sure to that. But one thing that you brought up there is he's not exactly surrounded by a great offense right now. And when you say, could you build a Super Bowl team around him? I think if you put him on the Vikings, they're a Super Bowl favorite. They're at least favorites in the NFC. If Aaron Rodgers has Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen to throw to, if he's got a decent running game with a guy like Dalvin Cook, I think that's a hell of an offense.
But you wouldn't say that now about this Vikings offense, that they have the potential to be a top 10, top 15?
Top 15 for sure. I think that they can get sort of itching toward the top 10, but it's still going to be a team, that needs a top 5 defense married with a close to top 10 offense. And I think that Aaron Rodgers definitely gets you there, and Kirk Cousins maybe does.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like two different conversations, because in one way, if you said, look, you have to pick a quarterback between these two with your entire life savings on the line, which at The Athletic is a lot. Okay. So you have all of your money in the bank. It is Friday, a wonderful day. And either Kirk or Aaron is winning you this game. You don't know any other information. You have to pick one of the two. There's no question
of course, right.
Who you pick. Like, Aaron, save me my money, please. Thank you. But let's say you're one of the 10,000 owners of the Green Bay Packers, but you're buying a team. You're buying a team. The Vikings and the Packers are for sale, and you have $2 billion. So you're John Krasinski.
Yep.
And you're like, all right, so which one am I going to pick? And I know that here's the quarterback situation. And that ultimately determines where your franchise goes. We see that with Cam Newton. They have a pretty decent roster, and Cam Newton falls apart, and the team's bad, and their coach will get fired. That's how it always goes. I don't know if I'm picking old Aaron Rodgers with a massive cap hit that's even worse than what Kirk Cousins is. And we even see the ramifications of Cousins' contract here, the lack of depth in the secondary. I've gotten a bunch of tweets about Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Right.
Would you trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick? Well, sure, if I could create cap room out of magic, but I can't because of Kirk Cousins' contract in part. So, I think with this conversation, the fact that I can get out from under Cousins if I decide that he can't win with this really good roster around him, that makes me think, yeah, I'd probably rather do that for the long-term state of the franchise.
That's the biggest part, because even though, I still think that Aaron Rodgers is well ahead of Kirk Cousins, but even if we're going to go off of the numbers that have them pretty close with maybe a slight edge to Aaron Rodgers, what is Aaron Rodgers going to look like in 2022 when the Packers presumably cannot get out of that part of the deal? Or if they do, it will be a heck of a price tag. It's more likely 2023 that they can get out of that. That is when I'm not convinced that Aaron Rodgers is going to be great. But I would rather have the quarterback who gives me the best chance to win a Super Bowl, even if that means in 2022 we're not going to be great. And so I'll take Aaron Rodgers because I think he gives me a better chance this season and next season than Kirk Cousins would.
Unfortunately, though, in our present situation, you have to take Aaron and Marquez Valdez Scantling and Jace Sternberger, who's hurt, and Equanimous St. Brown, who's hurt. This isn't the bubble situation of this guy's better than that guy, so we take the guy who's better. It's you also have to take everything that goes along with him. You have to take that basically entire situation. Both teams have good defenses. One team has way better weapons. It's not close. One team has a good left tackle who you would absolutely take in Bakhtiari. The rest of the lines are probably comparable.
Yeah.
The Bears just demolished the rest of their line, so I wouldn't look at that and say, oh, yeah, definitely want that line over the Vikings. So if you're taking the actual real-life situations, Vikings quarterback situation, Packers quarterback situation, I lean toward the Vikings quarterback situation.
Fine, but it's easy to say this now until 2021 comes here and the Vikings draft another Christian Ponder and Aaron Rodgers is still
You're not even from Minnesota.
Average to above average. Then this could all come back, and it's always nice on the other side of the hill. The grass is always greener as you look at Tua or Lawrence or whoever else that may be coming out in 20 whatever year. But I'll take the sure thing just about every time.
That was an extreme Minnesotan statement right there. I mean, the
bringing up Christian Ponder.
Yes, I mean saying yeah, they could get a rookie, but he'll definitely fail. I mean, or he could be Mahomes, or he could be Watson, who just entirely changes your franchise, or Carson Wentz that allows you to spend all your money around him and is great. So I think when you break it down from that standpoint and assume that quarterbacks coming out of college are a little more reliable now than they were in the past. And even Mitch Trubisky took his team to a division title last year. He stinks, but he took it.
Yeah,
he even did that. That's the point about modern quarterbacks versus even 5, 7, 10 years ago in drafting them is you don't see too often them just completely implode. They're better prepared now. But either way, saying, I don't want a top quarterback, he'll be a bust. Well, if Cousins proves that he can't do it this year, they're going to move on, right?
Yes, but just to me, the fact that this is actually a conversation that isn't the craziest thing you've ever heard is striking, I think, for at least the way things are trending with Green Bay. I do think it's noteworthy that Aaron Rodgers has, by a lot of, sort of the advanced metrics, been average to above average the last 3 seasons. 2016 better than 17 and 18. But he's a long way removed from 2011 when he was the best player on the planet.